Welcome back to TMZ Verified. I'm Steph.
I'm Wild.
And I'm Alexa Nikolas.
You may remember her as Nicole Bristow from Zoey 101, but now she's the founder of Eat Predators. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for
seriously,
having
like
me.
my childhood self.
I know,
freaking
I'm
out.
kind of excited. Really, like
Girl.
childhood me
that.
is really excited. Really, it's really cool.
I'm so glad. Thank you for having me.
I want to start off light. How
Yes,
did you get
please.
into acting? What age were you?
I was about 2 years old,
Oh my God,
which is like
2?
super young.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was at a restaurant, my mom said, and I was going around pretending I was a waitress. Like I was mimicking waiters. And one of the people that I went up to like take their order was an agent. And I didn't know that. And then afterwards, she went up to my mom and was like, if you're ever interested in putting her in the industry, here's my card. And my mom thought about it and was like, okay, I guess why not? Let's just try it out. And it ended up being one of the bigger agencies in Chicago. I think it was called Stewart. And I went to a few auditions and I booked like 2 of the first auditions I went
oh
to.
my gosh.
And so my mom was like, okay, do you like it? And I was having a blast. So it just kind of kept going. And then all of a sudden now I'm here.
Meanwhile, 2-year-old me is like eating rocks. in the corner. Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have a 2-year-old right now, and she's basically doing the exact same thing. I was like, I can't even picture me at that age doing it. It's
right.
very weird.
Totally.
So wait, so you're from Chicago.
Yes, I'm from Chicago.
When did you make the transition to Los Angeles?
When I was 6 years old. So I came to Los Angeles when I was 6 for pilot season. Yeah,
okay,
and we
okay.
didn't think we were going to stay.
Explain pilot season for the people
Oh yeah.
that don't know.
Okay,
about
so
it.
pilot season basically is when people from around the world come to Los Angeles for new television series that are about to launch. And so I came here when I was 6, and then I thought I was going to end up leaving, but the weather was so much better than Chicago.
Yes.
No, like so much better. I was like, Mom,
She's like,
I'm
"No, you don't
never
understand."
going back. I'm never going back to Chicago ever again. And so we stayed. Half for acting, half for the weather kind of
Right.
thing.
How was that to convince your parents to move, to uproot their lives? I mean, you didn't. You were 6, but like, what was
Correct.
that like for you guys?
Well, my mom was a single mom, so I only had to convince one parent.
I'm like, girl, same.
Same.
Like,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, yes. Single
Yeah,
mom
literally.
club. I love that. I love that. My mom's amazing. So she also wanted to leave Chicago. I think she was also like done with it.
Looking
So-
for something new.
Totally. And she was a realtor and she just saw that there was a lot of success happening with me. She was like, all right, I guess I'll invest in my daughter's like,
like that.
interests,
That's awesome,
which
yeah.
was really sweet. I think in retrospect now she's like, maybe I wouldn't have done that. But after hearing about everything, you have a different perspective afterwards. But yeah, that's how it happened.
How did you, Zoey 101, how did that all come together?
So I was 12, and I think it was like 5,000 different girls were auditioning for Nicole Bristow. Like
Can you
insane.
imagine?
I can't. Like they were sending in tapes.
She's like,
from-
I was there and I
yeah,
can't
yeah. I was there, and I still can't even imagine how it happened. But I remember auditioning, and I thought, oh my God, this is the role for me. Like I was pretty much like Nicole when I was younger in the sense of very bubbly and, girly. And also, when you're an actress at that age, most roles that you're auditioning for are for, to be the kid of like the parent leads.
Right.
And so when you get an opportunity to be the lead as a child, that's so exciting.
Right.
So I remember being like, please God, let me get this. Like I really want to get this. And I went to a callback. I think I went to another callback, and then I tested for the role with Jamie Lynn Spears.
Okay.
And after that, I was like on my knees, like praying, like, please God, let me get this role. And then I remember getting the call and I freaked out. I think I literally like flipped a lid. I was screaming around my apartment. It was a celebration. It was a total celebration. But that's how the whole Zoey 101
Was that
thing
like your
happened.
first big acting role that you
It
ever
was.
recall? Yeah.
It was like my first lead. Like usually it was guest stars or the daughter of some lead, and this was the first time that I was actually the lead. So yeah, that was my first big. I guess most people know me from that show, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
What was a day like on Zoey 101 when it came to being like a childhood actor?
you wake up early, just like going to school. So you're like waking up at 6 in the morning.
Okay.
I used to pretend that I was going into the shower, but actually I would go run the shower and run back into my room. And my mom didn't know. And then she'd find me in the bedroom and be like, what the
Why are you sleeping in
Like,
bed?
what are you doing? And then she'd have to drag me out. She would like lure me with bagels, and I'd be like, okay, I'm getting up.
Uh-oh.
I'm getting up. So it would start like that, 6 in the morning, and then either my mom or a co-star's parent would drive me to set. Sometimes
Okay.
people would carpool
yeah.
because it was all the way in Malibu at Pepperdine
Wow.
Right,
University.
at Pepperdine. It was
Yeah,
from there.
which is beautiful. Like honestly, that was the best place I've ever filmed, to be honest, because you're just looking at the ocean all day. It was amazing. So yeah, you would start day at like 6 a.m, show up to set, you would do some school, get into makeup and hair, and then basically start filming. It was a very relaxed, I would say, set environment in general, in the sense where, there wasn't much going on. It was more just like hanging out, craft service, and
But
makeup
compared
and
to
hair.
like an adult actor, was pretty much like the same.
It is, yeah. Except you're not in a studio, so you would sometimes forget you were on set. You know,
Okay.
because like you're at a
Yeah, yeah.
campus,
casually
like a
walking
college
around
campus,
campus,
totally. Going into dorm rooms, like
Right.
you totally would forget sometimes you were on set. But it was a beautiful view. I'm not gonna lie.
How long were those filming days though? Because I'm just trying to think like.
They were long. I think they were like 12 hours long. And that's the only upsetting part when it comes to acting as a child. I don't really know if kids should be working for 9 to 12 hours, just because that's a lot, when I look back at it, I'm like, I don't know if that was okay per se, because you would just go right back the next day, 6 a.m, 5 days a week. And back then you didn't do 10 episodes, you did 22 episodes.
I was going to say,
Oh,
shows back in the
okay.
day
Oh my
were
God,
like.
it's like novels, War and Peace, like
Shows back in the day were
crazy,
long, seasons were long. Yeah.
insane. It was like 6 months of your time, just filming. So, I was definitely not in school. I was homeschooled at that time. And so your life is pretty much sucked up by being on set. Your childhood is really replaced by being on set.
Do you recall if like that was, did you know it would be as much of a, or as extensive or extenuous the acting job when you walked into Zoey 101, or was it just something you were like, I like acting?
It was definitely,
Yeah.
I like acting and I'm just happy to be here. But I think because the environment got stressful, that's what kind of made all of those other aspects heavier. I think if it was enjoyable, maybe I wouldn't have felt those hours as intensely. But when you're not enjoying yourself, that really, adds to it. It creates a whole new environment to the entire aspect of it.
I mean, this is obviously like a loaded question, but would you recommend being a child actor? Like,
No.
No.
I get asked that now a lot, and I'm always like, no, because I have a daughter now. She's 2.
Yeah, like what if
and
she wanted to act?
Yeah, I would not let her. I would let her do it when she's 18.
Okay.
When it's her own, decision. But I just feel like a child, obviously their brain's not even fully developed yet. And I just don't feel it's right to make those type of intense decisions for a
Right.
child.
Yeah.
Even though like I'm not blaming my mom, it was a different time back
Yeah.
then. But now as a parent, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I would ever let my daughter be an actress until she was at least 18. If she was interested, I would put her in programs like theater,
Yeah. Right.
but not put her in a set environment, because I did not have a good experience on.
Do you
on the
recall
set
as a kid
environments.
ever like having that conversation with your mom though, being like, Mom, I don't know if I'm feeling this, or like just explaining to her how you felt? Did you guys ever have that conversation?
I more about the environment at Zoey 101. Like that was definitely a conversation we had often, where I was like, I was crying most of the time. Like I would come home like really in tears most days, and so my mom had to comfort me, but she really fought for me. That's the great aspect. I love my mom. She really went to bat for me against the executives there, and even though they didn't do anything, she was always my ally. She was always looking out for my best interests and trying to make sure that the adults were supporting me and protecting me. But unfortunately, even with a good supportive mom,
Right.
it's pretty hard with these corporate structures.
Thinking about it, you said you started off like super excited and you were like, oh, I can't believe I got this out of like 5,000 people. Like, how long was that? How long did it take for your opinion to sort of change? Like, oh, I'm so excited to, oh, I'm crying every single day. Like, how long was that period?
It was like the first day, even before we walked on set.
The
I remember
first day?
It was like meet and greet. We had a meet and greet on Nick on Sunset, and I remember I was so excited. And I showed up and I like went up to Jamie. And I was like, Jamie, this is so exciting. And she was very closed off. And at first I thought to myself, well, she's Britney Spears' sister, and it must be really, that's hard to have a sister that's like a huge pop icon. I'm sure so many people are just wanting to be your friend because of that. It's heavy. So, I gave the benefit of the doubt to her. I was like, I don't want her to think that's why. I'm coming up to her. Like, I just genuinely want to get to know her. And so at first, it still made me feel, though, that she didn't necessarily like me. And I remember going home, telling my mom, I didn't feel like she liked me. How am I going to be her best friend on this show? You know, it started off not well, and then that just ended up being like the culture of the show.
Escalated.
Totally.
So we know you did Zoey 101. You were there for a couple of years, from
Yes.
2005 to 2006,
Yes.
7-ish.
Yes.
What'd you do after that?
I was like, I want to do drama.
Okay.
Because I really didn't. It's so hard to get out of the typecast of Nickelodeon or Disney Star. It's really hard to make that leap. And so I thought to myself, I don't know if I really want to do any more comedy. I think I want to do more drama and explore that and see if I can actually do that. And so that's what I did. I started doing like Cold Case and Criminal Minds and CSIs. And then later on was Mad Men and Walking Dead. And so that was kind of my goal after Zoey 101 was not to do any more comedy per se, just so I could have people see me in a different light.
Mm-hmm. How do you sort of go from that to now you're a founder of like Eat Predators? How did that go?
It always makes me laugh every time someone says it.
You know, because I'm like, okay, Zoey 101, you're doing something, you know, other acting roles
Yes.
now to this.
Yes.
So how did that all go down?
You know, I'm still shocked that it all went down because this is how it happened. I mean, I'm a survivor myself. I'm a survivor of the music industry and I'm a survivor of the entertainment industry. And, you know, after going through a year's worth of litigation, that when I kind of got out of that year, I started to realize through having to go down the rabbit hole of my past that the music industry was actually somewhat, you know, involved in the process, like knew more than I remembered.
Okay.
And that was scary for me because, you know, when you're healing, you're really just looking at you and the person that harmed you. You're not really thinking about the people around them who could possibly enable that person. You're really just so focused on the abuse that you're not thinking about that. I got so many different messages from survivors of the music industry. And it really opened up my whole entire world where I was like, oh, wow, this is actually unfortunately more common than I thought.
Like it's not just you.
It's
is what you
not
thought.
just me. And I was like, well, what am I gonna do about it? Like that's pretty much what happened. I was like, what do I do? And so just so happened that, you know, Diplo was having a show in the middle of Melrose and an ice cream truck called Eat the Rich. And so I got a couple of my music industry survivor friends and said, how about we go and protest the ice cream truck show, which was kind of crazy. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I actually went through with that. And so when I was making the protest signs, I was like, what is my protest sign gonna be? And I saw Eat the Rich and I went, Eat Predators. And that's how it came to me. And so I made the sign and I thought it was just gonna be a protest sign. And then all of a sudden it just grew into the movement. All of a sudden I was like, well, maybe this is a way to actively show up and create change instead of doing it all via social media. And so I realized if I can merge protesting with the old school protesting with social media, I wanted to make an experiment and kind of see what happens with that. So that's how it all started. It started with just one, you know, random protest on Melrose for Eat the Rich, and then all of a sudden now it's become Eat Predators.
Okay, I have a twofold question. First
me.
question is, what did you do to kind of go through your healing process? Like, what did that healing process look like for you? And then the second part is, what are some of the goals your organization has to help other people go through that healing process?
So for me, I mean, I first had to name it. I had to actually say it out loud. And the first time I was able to say it out loud, that started the first layer of healing. I think sometimes when you are silent about it, it hinders that healing process, for me at least personally. And so once I was able to name it and also find the language to identify it, that was the first layer for me. So it was like name it, identify it, find the language, and then after that, you know, finding different healing, you know, going to therapy, you know, meditating, you know, eating healthy, getting outside, getting into nature. And then that other part would be communicating with those around you your story. And not being afraid to tell those around you what happened to you. That was a huge part of my healing journey, was just being able to have conversations with my friends and be like, this is what happened to me and this is what I've been holding in this whole time, and to see which ones of my friends supported me and which ones didn't. So that really revealed to me who was my support group, you know? So basically, I would say like identifying it, you know, finding different ways that you feel comfortable through therapy or other healing aspects, and then finding your community, finding those that help support you in your healing journey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then when it comes to e-predators, I mean, our whole mission is, number one, to get rid of these extremely broad NDAs. Corporate structures love to use NDAs. We know that. NDAs for me should be about innovative, creative endeavors, but not for, sexual assault, sexual abuse, etc. There was somebody who came forward a little bit ago who said that in their NDA, that if someone actually got sexually assaulted, she couldn't even help the person who got sexually assaulted. If she saw it in her work environment, her NDA actually prohibited her from helping that person. So when you think about that, that's crazy. And then some people's NDAs actually say they can't speak to their therapist about what happened to them. And that, to me, I mean, if you're not going to let a survivor heal, like, it's one thing to silence them and then to block their journey for healing. I mean, I find that extremely problematic. So we're trying to release survivors from their NDAs because I feel that we aren't going to be able to know fully what to do until we hear from the survivors themselves, so we can know what's happening in these corporate structures, and then we can take the proper measures of how to fix that, how to change that. But number one is these NDAs. I mean,
know what happened.
Yes,
yeah.
Because if we don't know, how are you supposed to change? I mean, silence is violence. If we don't know what's going on, we as a society can't help, And so that's definitely goal number one, is just like get rid of these NDAs.
The last time you spoke to TMZ, you were protesting.
I was.
And you said that you
So
wanted you said that you wanted an apology.
I did.
But did you ever get one?
No, I never got an apology, which is, I really thought after that day that I was gonna get one, and no, I still didn't get an apology, which is sad because, I was a child and they're all adults, and I thought, eventually they would do the adult thing and take accountability and say that they were sorry and also wanting to do better, like showing that they're actively trying to become better. But they didn't. They didn't apologize, and they haven't showed what they're doing inside of Nickelodeon since then to make it safer for children. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get an apology. I might just leave this earth without a Nickelodeon apology.
So I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about the joyous times from your experience as a childhood actor. Like, what was that like? What did you love?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, people don't usually ask me that. I'm actually glad. I would say being around adults actually was pretty fun as a child, because you wouldn't think so, but being around adults and like feeling like you're actually sitting at the adult table, there's something about that I actually appreciate as an adult now, where I never felt separated. Like, I never felt like a kid growing up, which there's also many cons to that, but there's a pro to it, where I was able to hear what adults were talking about. I was able to sit there and be part of the conversation. And so that was something, when I look back, many cons, but also many pros to that. What else would I say? I mean, playing different characters is just awesome as an actor. I would say just the professional aspect of it was my favorite part. Was like going to auditions, having to play new characters, practicing lines. That was something I loved.
Are there any other actors from the show that you're still cool with, you have any relationships with, that are good?
I wish I could say. I mean, Sean Flynn was like a really good friend of mine on set. I loved Sean. We were really, really, really close. But then the reunion thing happened, and everyone kind of just got separated once again, basically. And then when Jamie was trying to bring me onto the music video, and I was like 8 months pregnant, I was like, I can't do this. I'm going on my baby moon. I don't want to do this anyways. After that, it just felt like that whole reunion thing just even separated people more. I might have united them more, but then I became more of an island again. So no, I don't really talk to anybody from the set of Zoey 101. I wish. I really tried so many times to connect with all of them, and then at some point you got to just go, okay, I tried, and I don't want to put on too much emotional labor on myself. It has to be reciprocal. It has to, someone has to also be trying to be your friend. You can't be the only one being like, hey, be my friend. After a while, if you feel embarrassed, and it's a scary feeling to be vulnerable, and then no one's really respecting that vulnerability. So I don't really talk to more Disney stars than Nickelodeons.
Do you think?
Okay, who you cool with from Disney?
Who you cool with? Christy Romano.
Okay.
And Allison Stoner.
Okay.
You know, I've come into contact with her. She's awesome. I'm actually going Christy Romano's podcast next week.
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
Yes.
She's really, really great. And I ironically played her younger on Even Stevens.
Oh, Even Stevens, right? I'm like, for the people that don't know, Even Stevens. Like, I know a lot of these kids don't know that stuff back in the day, but like, Even Stevens.
Even Stevens with Shia LaBeouf.
Literally.
Really strange.
They know Shia from like Transformers, though. Like, we know
Right.
Shia
Oh my God,
from
I
the.
feel
Yes.
so old. Ah, that was horrible.
All right,
But
so
Even Stevens was
Christy
amazing.
Romano, who
Yes.
else are?
So Christy Romano, Allison Stoner, and I'm trying to think of other Disney stars that, well, I guess she's not Disney. I'm thinking about now music, but like Melissa Schumann. You remember Dream?
No.
Do you remember Dream? Oh my God, it was like a girls band, like group band when Backstreet Boys and NSYNC was around. And Melissa Schumann was in that band. She's amazing. It was like Sony, Disney,
Oh, okay.
collaborations.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should
Okay.
definitely look up Melissa Schumann. She's awesome. But I feel like all of us now are like old child TV stars.
No, we're just
Sorry,
seasoned.
guys.
Like,
Everyone's watching. They're like, who are you even? Like, what is Zoey 101?
No, everyone knows Zoey 101. Everyone
Literally,
knows.
yeah.
Everyone.
Everyone
Don't
knows.
worry. Don't worry about that.
PCA.
No,
Everyone
literally.
knows PCA.
Everyone wanted to go to PCA.
No, for real.
I feel
yeah,
like that's every
that was,
message
the
I
thing.
get.
I
Yeah, no.
still want to go to PCA.
I was about to say, a part of college
Yeah,
was
I
like,
still do.
is this what college is like? Like, and
literally.
y'all weren't even in college.
You
but
weren't
I'm
even
like,
in college.
I just felt like, okay,
No,
that's
and
not
the-
what my high school was like.
Yeah,
so
and
maybe
the
that's what
dream
college
was
will
like
be
to
like.
be the dream was like to be away from your parents at like your
Yes,
school.
of
That was
course.
like the niche for me.
Yup,
I
for
was like,
sure,
oh, I
yup.
want to go to
It's like,
school.
hell
and
yeah.
Yeah,
not,
and you get like roommates.
yeah, like so
It's like
fun.
college for kids. That's what
No,
I feel
for
like
real,
PCA
yeah.
was. This is college for kids, and like a
Literally.
beautiful location. Like what college campus looks like that?
Right,
one?
yeah,
That's-
no, it's insane.
It's insane. I actually know someone who went to Pepperdine,
Oh.
which is so funny. And I remember a good friend of mine was like, "Is it PCA or is it Pepperdine?"
Right. like-
Everyone just sees it as PCA.
I was about to
They
say,
don't
yeah,
see
everybody's
it as
PCA.
Pepperdine.
PCA.
Yeah,
So wait, I do gotta ask though, Alexa. So let's just say you got a call and they said, Alexa, we want you in the Zoey 101 reboot.
Oh God, no. I honestly can never go back there. I feel like it's a thing of the past now for me where, I had a lot of trauma that I experienced on that set, and it took a lot for me to heal from that trauma. And I feel that even though I have healed, if I were to return, it would be too triggering. Like the triggering aspect, I would be kind of nervous about, just because even when the Jamie Lynn Spears book came out, just something where I'm not even on set, for example, I'm not even seeing her. It was really triggering. These things are triggering, and I just don't want something like that to happen while I'm working
Right.
again.
Yeah.
It's really hard to balance a professional life with like the eternal conflicts that are happening. That's a really hard thing. I mean, harder as a child, but still I think it's hard as an adult. You don't want your professional life to be a drag
Mhm.
Right,
and
right,
feel
Girl, tell us about
stressful.
it.
Yeah, can you imagine if you guys didn't get along?
Yeah.
Right, no,
Like,
for
it would
real.
be different. It would totally
Yeah,
be different. You'd be
yeah.
like, I don't want to sit. You would not be sitting comfortably.
No,
next
yeah,
to
we're
me.
literally
No,
best
no.
friends. Sometimes
Yeah,
I'm like, move
like,
away.
feel
Like,
like-
yeah, literally.
I feel it. That's like a good feeling, though.
I
That's how
know.
it should be.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when it's not like that, it's just you want your work to be enjoyable. And if something is impeding on that, and you have the option to exit that scenario, I say push the button and exit. And so for me, that's how I think about the reboot. I'm like, go back, it's too triggering, and I have the option, and I have to, and I'm ready to move on from that. I'm doing so
Right.
many other things now too, where I'm like, this is so far behind me.
Okay,
you know?
I have 2 questions.
Tell me.
also. We're doing like a 2
I
like
like
Two questions at a time.
So, do you think with all of this stuff coming out, and we're talking not just you, like a lot of people, do you
Yes.
think there's more things that will come out as time goes on that
Yes.
hasn't come out yet?
Yes, I do. I'm hopeful of that, to be honest. The only problem is these NDAs. Like, that's why I'm so anti-NDAs, because there are people that want to come forward and they can't because they're stuck in NDAs. Like, that is super common. There are people after signing that go, oh, I kind of felt pressured into that, and maybe I wasn't thinking at the time, and then they want to get out of it, and you're screwed. Like, some people can't even have a duplicate of their NDA contract. So like that's how intense these NDAs can get.
gosh.
So I'm hopeful, but I'm also a little bit pessimistic, just because NDAs are intense, and so I wouldn't be surprised if more people than I could think of did end up signing one, and so that's what we're going up against. Is that.
Because with all this stuff coming out, something else that's, getting super popular is about, these family vloggers and how these kids are sort of working 24/7 without, a company representing them because that's like their family. What's your opinion on that? Because that's going to be the new wave of
like the
child
kids?
like their parents vlog like 24/7. Like I'm not saying specifics. I'm just saying like that is the full thing that's blowing up on TikTok right now is calling out these families being like, oh, they don't get a day off. They don't get paid. And then,
Okay, wait, this is horrible. I didn't even know this really existed,
Okay, well,
to be
great.
honest. Wait, okay, you're going to know my opinion on this. That's scary.
But you know what family vloggers are, obviously.
Of course I do.
So, like,
of course.
that's kind of like the argument that's blowing up on TikTok right now is like,
that's
they're
even
the new
scarier
child
than
actor.
what I was just talking about. That's like scary. If you have no union, you have no protocols, like nowhere to report. You can only report to your mom and dad, I'm guessing. That's scary. I mean, I honestly would not be pro that. Because if I'm against it in a very like professional structure, if it's kind of like the Wild West, I would be
No, literally the
you know
Wild
what I
West.
mean?
No, that's such a good analogy.
It's already bad.
And better homework.
That's such a good analogy.
So you said you have a lot going on. What's next for Alexa Nikolas? Like, okay, we haven't seen you act in a few years. Like, are you retired officially?
No.
Okay.
So obviously I'm continuing these protests. I'm doing them every other week. I was just at Warner Music Group. We did a whole Barbie theme. It was fun actually, because we found out the board member of Warner Music Group is the CEO of Mattel. And so we're trying to get him to listen to survivors and think of us as Barbie, in these corporate structures and to stand in solidarity with survivors. So we were trying to get him on our side. But anyway, so Warner Music Group, and then I think we might be going to TriStar. That might be our next protest. And then I'm in the middle of writing my first full-length script. So I did like a short film called Metanoia that came out, a year ago now? And I filmed that for about 4 years. We filmed in Iceland and Ethiopia, and it was more. Thank you. It was beautiful.
Like,
oh my God, it was amazing. We went to
Somebody
Donakill.
hold the camera. Let me know.
Yeah, no, actually,
I will carry a box.
I might be hitting you up. Please come and join us. We need the help. But yeah, so we did that for 4 years, and it was very experimental. And then now I'm moving into full-on directing and writing. And so I'm in the middle of doing that, and I think we're going to be filming that in Hungary of next year.
Wow.
We're filming it on black and white 35 millimeter. So it's going to be, I don't know, my fingers are crossed. First, when you're ever, set life is, you never know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping it goes as smoothly as possible. And so I'm trying to get more behind the camera now, and then obviously continue doing the activism that I'm doing. Survivors United is the goal. Is to get us unionized as much as possible, because with survivors we feel isolated most of the time. It's like scary, we feel alone. So I'm really trying to get survivors to feel the support from other survivors. That's like the main goal for Eat Predators.
Yeah. Alexa, last question here.
Yes,
if you could give any bit of advice to anyone, and I guess it would be weird to say to any child because kids ain't watching, listening to TMZ Verified, but for maybe parents who are considering allowing their kids to be child actors, or someone who, just came out of that child acting space, do you have any advice for those people, like having been through that experience yourself?
I would make sure that the parents are encouraging their child to speak up for themselves. And not even just to their parent at home. I encourage the kids to do it on the set, because kids are told so many times to suck it up and be professional. And I think parents and everybody actually on set should encourage a kid not to have to be professional, that actually being professional is using your voice and letting people know when you're not comfortable and when you are. Every single part of set life should be consensual. And so I would really encourage the parents to make sure that they encourage their children to speak up on set, not just when they get home or they're in the car. Let everybody hear it. Let everybody know how the kid is feeling. And then, obviously have fun as much as you can. But if you feel that you are exhausted, know that you do have agency over your body. Kids' rights do matter, and kids should have rights. And so if you feel like you need a break, take the break. And demand the break, because you deserve the break, and it's so important for mental health to make sure that you stop when you feel that you've had enough, you know. And I think so many of us are always trying to like just go, 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 go. And kids really pick that up from adults. So we as adults have to encourage kids like, hey, even adults are kind of screwing things up. Like if you need to take a break, take a break. And I support you and I encourage that. So that's two things, like really encouraging them to speak up and using their voice and take rest, like take a break, encourage that. Because when you get older and you didn't do that, let me tell you, you suffer from those no pauses. Like you really do. Later on. Right. Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like I've been trying to sit on the couch for years. Like that's, and my husband would tell you all she does is really lay on the couch. Because I'm like, I just need to rest because it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
I have one more question.
Tell me.
What would your advice be to, let's say someone's watching this and they also, you know, maybe they're trapped in an NDA, maybe they had like a bad experience. Like what would your advice be for that? And how can our listeners become a part of Eat Predators?
If you're in an NDA, well, that's a very difficult one because an NDA is pretty much extremely hard to get out of. So we need more legislative acts for those people to make sure that we can release them from their NDAs. Now in litigation, you're not able to bring in an NDA if it has to do with sexual abuse, which is a great start. But until we kind of ban these very broad NDAs and corporate structures, it's hard to help that person out. But there are other ways for them to get active, like even donating, you know, hashtagging Eat Predators, sharing the content is super, 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 super helpful. And also, someone can show up to the protest in a mask and a hat, and they don't have to be photographed, but they can stand in solidarity. So let's just say someone is caught up in an NDA, you can hide your identity, or you can just be off camera and still show up to a protest, for example. So I think sharing the content, hashtagging, and, you know, probably showing up like incognito, basically, if you feel comfortable doing that, that would be, you know, helpful. I'm also starting this podcast called Ever Upward, and it's going to be a podcast that basically we talk about the healing journey of being a survivor. And so I'm hoping that I can get survivors onto these podcasts, like not just famous survivors. I also want just survivors to come on and like share their words of wisdom. And I think that's a way to also contribute to Eat Predators, is just contributing to that healing process and using your voice to share it with others. That would be, I didn't have that growing up, and so that's why I'm trying to make it now, is like survivors, like it's time to speak up, you know?
It's definitely helpful.
Actor, director, founder of Eat Predators, Alexa Nikolas, thanks so much for joining us.
So much.
Thank you so much. This was
It was not as scary as
no,
you.
it wasn't.
Okay, thank
no,
you.
I was like shocked. I'm like, when is the bad question happen? I was like, when is it gonna happen? I was waiting. I'm like looking at your sheet, like, oh God.
No, you're fine.
No, you guys are so sweet. Thank you so much.
Thanks
for
so much for
having
hanging
me.
out with us,
Thank you.
Alexa.
Thank you so much.